Shortly before I came to chat with you today, I made myself a lovely big cup of Madagascar vanilla tea. And then, while it steeped, I sat quietly with my hands wrapped around it and I just listened to the sounds of the room. The heat pump, fan, the clock ticking, the little ripple of the water that the diffuser makes. And I knew I was starting to settle and I was starting to be comfortable. But I needed just a little bit more. So I set my meditation timer for 5 minutes and I sat there quietly with my eyes closed in the other chair and my hands around my big cup. And I just enjoyed that moment, that quiet moment, thinking only of the tea in my hands, of the warmth that I could feel, the aroma of the tea, and it was lovely. And here I am now talking to you. So why don't you go and grab yourself a nice cup of tea and then come back and watch the rest of this video. Make yourself comfortable. Take a little bit of time for yourself. And let's talk about self-compassion. So how did you start your day? Well, you might be like me, started your day with a great long list of things to do, lots of things that you needed to tick off. And really, all I've managed to achieve so far is to get the washing done, to get the vacuuming done, to get the house in some sort of order. But I've still got this great list of other things that I need to get done. But they're things that I really want to do too. And I don't know, sometimes things just seem to take over, don't they? And then there's that little inner voice that says to you, oh, gosh, you're hopeless at time management, you know. Why don't you get yourself sorted? Why don't you actually stop being distracted by things? You're never going to get this done. You might as well just give up on it. But you know, there are lots of other things too that we could be saying to ourselves, and those things are not kind things to be saying. And they get in the way of us actually moving forward and doing the things that we really want to do. You know, a few years ago, I would have listened to that voice. I wouldn't only have listened to it, I would have urged it on. And I would have done that without realizing what I was really doing, because I didn't recognize that there was thinking behind my feelings. I just felt hopeless. I felt useless. I felt as though I just could not do what I needed to do, and there must be something wrong with me. And so I didn't actually recognize either that the resentment that I had in me, was that resentment towards the housework, was something that came from me not understanding what my needs were and not allowing myself to have time for myself and to do things. There was this expectation I felt I needed to live up to all the time. And so when my husband would come in for lunch, that frustration and that resentment would spill over onto him, and that wasn't a very nice lunch. But you know, since I've been practicing mindfulness, that's changed. I have an awareness of what's going on with me. I'm aware of what the emotions are. I'm aware of what my needs are. And I pay attention to my thinking as well as whatever is going on around me in the moment. So even if I don't notice what the thoughts are, I know that there's something I really have to stop and look at more closely. This thing of self-compassion, being kind to myself, is not something that's come easily to me, and I don't know if it's something that comes easily to you either. Generally, the people I work with tell me it's one of the hardest things to do. You know, self-compassion means not having to be perfect, not having to meet unrealistic expectations, not having to be the best at everything. And for many of us, that's something that we are constantly trying to do. Self-compassion means accepting you, who you are, with all the odd bits as well as the not so odd bits. You know, those bits that we need to work on as well as the bits that we've already worked on. It means taking time to nurture yourself when everything in you is telling you that you're lazy or you'll never succeed at whatever it is. You can fill in the blanks here. So here I am talking to you. The housework's done, well, most of it, and I still have my list of things to do, but that's okay. I'm getting through that list of things to do. But you know what? I'm actually leaving most of that list because one of the things I know I need to do, because my back's bothering me a little bit, is to have one of those lovely magnesium soaking baths. And that is exactly what I'm going to do when I finish talking with you. A little self-compassion puts me back into a really good place to start again later. If I tried to push on, I don't think I would succeed terribly well. But what about you? This week I want you to take note of how self-compassionate you are, I wonder. You know, how compassionate you are towards yourself is usually a reflection of how compassionate you are towards others as well. So have a think about that. I've put together a self-compassion tracker for you. Now, bear in mind you may have some resistance to using it, but you know, it's up to you whether you do or you don't. Have a think about it. Do you want to learn to be self-compassionate? Do you want to learn to nurture yourself, to take care of yourself? I would hope that you do, and that's why you're doing this 8-week challenge. So I suggest you put this tracker on the fridge, well, somewhere where you can see it, to remind you to keep track of the self-compassionate things you do this week. And there's also a little short self-compassionate activity that I want you to do as well. It's a mindfulness one, and it's only a couple of minutes. So see if you can do that as well as your 4-minute breathing exercise if you can. But you know, it's up to you. You don't have to do any of these things. If all you do is the 4-minute breathing every day, I'd be really happy for you to do that and to learn to use that, not just in your formal practice, but in your in everything you're doing as you go about your daily work. So be sure to share on the Facebook page how you go, and keep breathing.